that decides the movement characteristics. Depending on where the shortest link is, it may be a crank rocker, it may be a double rocker, it may be a double crank. Whereas in a non-Grashof linkage, it is always double rocker, independent of any kinematic inversion. However, it is the position of the longest link that decides the rocking characteristics, whether it will be both inward or both outward or inward outward. Let us now look at the model of this transition linkage, that is the special situation of a transition linkage. Here, these two links are of same length, which are opposite to each other, and this coupler length is same as the frame length. That is, we have a pair of L min and a pair of L max. However, because these two equal lengths are not connected directly, they are the opposite sides, it forms a parallelogram, and we call it a parallelogram linkage. As this parallelogram linkage moves, it is easy to see that there will be instants where all the four revolute pairs have become collinear. As a result, the linkage is passing through its uncertainty configuration, and from here their non-unique movement is possible. If sufficient care is taken, we can maintain the parallelogram configuration. However, from this uncertainty configuration, it can also flip back to anti-parallelogram configuration, and it is no longer a parallelogram. The two opposite sides are equal, but it is in the crossed configuration. This is called anti-parallelogram. So, at this uncertainty configuration, the linkage becomes uncertain whether to maintain the parallelogram or to flip back into anti-parallelogram configuration. This uncertainty configuration is true for all types of transition linkages whenever L min plus L max is L prime plus L double prime. Again, this is another uncertainty configuration, so we can either maintain the parallelogram or it can flip back to anti-parallelogram configuration. Thus, to overcome this uncertainty configuration in a parallelogram linkage, we can use an extra coupler, a redundant coupler, which we have seen earlier, and I will show it to you again. Let us again look at this parallelogram linkage where this length is equal to this length and this coupler length is equal to the frame length. So, this is a parallelogram linkage. However, this parallelogram linkage has a redundant or extra coupler which is of same length as this original coupler. As a result, when these four revolute pairs become collinear, apparently this parallelogram linkage is passing through uncertainty configuration. However, this extra coupler, which is not passing through uncertainty configuration, ensures that the parallelogram is always maintained. It can never flip back to anti-parallelogram configuration. The parallelogram linkage is very useful because it maintains unit angular velocity ratio. This crank and the follower are always parallel, so it transmits unit angular velocity ratio from the input to the output link. But to ensure that it remains a parallelogram and it does not flip back to anti-parallelogram configuration at the uncertainty configuration, we must have this extra or redundant coupler, this one. Let us now look at one kinematic inversion from this kite configuration. Here, as we see, these two links are of equal link length and these two links is another pair of equal link lengths. Unlike in a parallelogram configuration, here the equal link lengths are adjacent to each other rather than opposite to each other. These two links of equal lengths are adjacent. These two links, another pair of equal lengths, are adjacent. So, this is the kite configuration. We are considering a kinematic inversion where one of the L max, that is one of the longest link, is held fixed. As a result, we will get a crank rocker. With the shorter link which is connected to this fixed link will be the crank and the longer link will be the rocker. As we see, we start from here. The shorter link can rotate completely, whereas the longer link is only oscillating. Here, of course, because it is transitional linkage, there will be uncertainty configuration when all the link lengths become collinear. And here you see there is a loss of unique movement. The linkage can move like this, which is no motion transmission, or if care is taken, it can be driven as a linkage with positive motion transmission. So here we get a crank rocker kinematic inversion with the longer link of this kite configuration held fixed. Next we will see the model from the same chain where one of the shorter link, say this link, will be held fixed. Let us now look at another kinematic inversion from the same kite configuration. Here again two pairs of longer links, one pair of longer links, one pair of shorter links. But one of the shorter link is held fixed. Previously we have seen one of the longer link which was held fixed. In this kinematic inversion we will get a double crank. That means both this yellow link, the shorter link, and this red link will be able to make complete rotation. As we saw, both the red link and the yellow link were able to perform complete rotation. So this is a double crank. However, there exists a very fundamental difference between this double crank and the double crank that we got earlier from a Grasshopp's linkage or a parallelogram linkage. There, one rotation of the crank was also causing one full rotation of the follower. But here we must have noticed that it is two revolutions of the shorter crank As we see, the shorter crank has already made one complete revolution, but the longer crank is yet to make its complete revolution. If I rotate the shorter crank one more revolution, then the longer crank is completing its full rotation. Thus, two revolutions of the shorter crank is generating one full revolution of the longer crank. Such a mechanism is called a Galloway mechanism. In fact, we can see that for this configuration of the crank, the shorter crank, with the same link length,